Hail Internet, it's Paul, it's Matt, the Dork Lords. We are here today talking about Secret Invasion, Season 1, Episode 4, Beloved. We open with an unfortunately predictable flashback to Gaia secretly operating the Super Skrull machine. We guessed that she might have said, like, look over there, and then gone and used the machine. Didn't have to do that. The lab was empty. It was... to be fair, I think there was a guard out front, but these insurgents are committed. But I mean, they still keep 9 to 5 hours. I mean, come on, that's not
that's right.
It's not go crazy. I mean, in any case, no. She is alive. Shock. All right, she's alive. All right, we end with Gravik apparently killing a major character for the third time in 4 episodes. Talos goes down, saving the president. Gravik flees. And Fury drives off with the injured president, presumably to save him. Paul.
Yes.
What'd you think of episode 4?
So, since I was already disappointed last episode,
yes, you were.
I could, not have my hopes too high for this episode.
All right. All right.
So, I liked it slightly better, I guess.
Okay, all right.
The situation is still...
There are some positives to this episode, for sure.
Yeah. The thing that I think you had a problem with, I was more than fine with, which is Sam Jackson pointing a gun at his wife's head, and at the count of 3, they both shot in different directions there.
I will agree with you that the best part of this episode is the section that deals with the relationship between Fury and Priscilla. I think that is the strongest part of this. The gun shooting part was a little like...
See, I kind of feel like that was the moment, like you say, like you're writing to that moment. So whoever was selling the idea was like, he's got a wife, and they're going to have guns on each other at the end of it, and then there's that moment of... Yeah. It was sort of like, hey, the way that this is going, either you shoot me in the head and I was wrong, or
I shoot you in the head and you were wrong, or whatever, yeah.
Right, exactly. Well, yeah, the secret is, like, he couldn't bring himself to shoot her in the head, and she couldn't bring him to. But they didn't know that until they did it. Right. So,
okay.
They just...
No, I get that. It was just you like to up the stakes, so dramatic.
Yeah.
You couldn't just say it. You got to, like, point a gun and then divert at the last second.
Yeah, and the criticism I would have is, while the moment I think was worthy, and I think both actors were very good, that they didn't really earn it. And they made a number of choices that, it makes it hard to tell a good story. Like the choice to have, all these Skrull be secret, And so, you're making a dramatic choice to have it revealed that they're a Skrull, as opposed to, at least the audience knowing that they're a Skrull. I would have loved to spend more time with that character, and really got a sense of, okay, have both sides of it for her be visceral. But we didn't see her be persecuted that much, really. We can assume that she was. And the fact that nobody really knows, it's just like, boy, isn't it a bummer to be on this planet and not having your own, it's like they're not really being, persecuted that much. It's just like, boy, it'd be nice. They told us we would get our own planet.
So, well, we do know that she wasn't just hanging out at the house in secret. I mean, she apparently dealt with... Well, there's Priscilla and Vara, right?
Yes.
So we'll call them that. Priscilla is the human whose life she kind of took with consent.
Yeah.
And Vara is the Skrull. So Vara apparently kept up appearances with Priscilla's parents.
Yes.
And I guess basically, this is what I don't understand. I think, you tell me if I'm wrong, I think what happened is, so just to say, we learned the backstory. So Vara... was visiting a quietly dying Priscilla in the hospital. She's dying of like a heart defect. Hours before Priscilla is going to die anyway, Vara says, hey, can I guess, look, by the way, I'm a Skrull.
Yeah.
And can I basically inhabit your life? And they make an agreement. And then one of the, there's like a series of rules. One very important rule was don't hurt the person that you love, because I should backtrack to say Vara offers, hey, by me inhabiting your life, I am going to give you a chance, your body essentially, a chance to find love.
Yeah.
And Priscilla likes the kind of the romanticism of that, and is gone with it. She's like, well, so don't hurt the one that you love, meaning Nick Fury, but also you have to you'll bury me at sea, and I want you to basically keep up. I don't know how I should put it. Like basically keep up appearances with my parents, or stay in touch with them, or so. Now, what I'm getting from that is she was faking being Priscilla to those parents. She wasn't like, I'm Vara. I'm a Skrull pretending to be your daughter. I assume she was like, I'm Priscilla. Does that mean Priscilla just, let's say, Vara being Priscilla just walked out of the hospital one day and was like, I'm fine. Look at that. And the doctors are like, remarkable. You know what? You were minutes from dying, but suddenly you just got up and left. Awesome. I mean, I think that's what happened, right? I assume.
Presumably, yeah.
Okay. So she got rid of the body and buried it.
Yeah, or it's like, they came in like the next day and like, wow, you seem to be getting better.
Right. Yeah. So what I also got out of that was, so there's this very special poem, Late Fragment, that becomes important in the past and in the present. And it's a poem by Raymond Carver. Raymond Carver wrote that poem very shortly before he died of cancer at age 50.
Okay.
And in fact, he had just gotten married for I think it was his second wife, like weeks before he died. So kind of knew he was going to die, and they got married anyway. And so part of that whole thing about was it worth it in the end? Yes, to feel beloved. I feel like that's part of that. So I feel like that poem was probably very important to Priscilla.
Sure.
And that's how it became important to Vara.
Yeah.
Anyway, so there's just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
But that whole backstory is very interesting, and yeah, I would love to see more about that. I'd love to see more about their relationship over the years, because that's decades went by.
Yeah.
We see them in 2012. That's
Yes.
New York,
Yep.
and they're commenting on it, and they have feelings for each other, and
Yes.
we didn't get to see any of that, so that's that's unfortunate.
Yeah, but I would have even liked more of rather than having it appear first time her appear in the kitchen, just so she can have that life. I would have liked her to have more of a life and to see more of it in the show. Even if there's a couple more episodes where she was established and we can learn more about her and how she deals with situations. But we didn't.
I feel like we see her briefly in the trailer working with Gaia, so I feel like that's still that she's going to be a part of the last couple episodes as well.
That's fine, but we'll
right.
see.
That doesn't solve that problem. Yeah.
So.
And so interestingly, she poses this question at the end as they're leaving, because they're both being hunted at this point. So she's like, "Hey, would you have loved me if I had just kept my original form?" And Fury doesn't answer the question. Basically, like, well, I guess we'll never know. But it's interesting because the opposite was true. She loved him even though he was not a Skrull. So it's interesting. Like she was totally in on his human form.
Sure.
And I think he'll probably answer that question in more detail later. I suspect she might die, and maybe he'll be there and then have to say some comforting words to her as she departs or something like that. But I don't know.
Who knows?
We'll see. There's a lot of people dying or not dying in this show.
Yes.
So obviously the big reveal, although was it? But the theoretically big reveal was that Rhodey is a Skrull.
Yes.
And that was kind of the big.
Yeah, and I don't know if I really would have preferred it if Nick had just come out, because it was a little fun to be like, can you believe it? There's Skrulls in the government. That was cute.
Oh, right.
That was
that was him. Yeah.
Yeah. But I don't know if it would have been better just to be like, I know you're a Skrull, and I know I can't do anything about it, Like, I don't know if it was worth it to hey, drink this great stuff and I've got a tracker on you. I don't know if that was,
Yeah, the Pappy Van Winkle, which I saw, I think, on Netflix about these guys who were basically worked at the plant, and they were like taking extra bottles and selling them. There was a documentary done about these guys.
Okay.
Who were just like making a mint.
Okay.
They were like played on the local softball team, and they were like, "Hey, people like this stuff." Anyway, but
too bad they couldn't have included that. They could have had a scene where
see that. They're playing
Sam
softball.
Jackson, Nick Ball, just like
comes and buys
talks
a
to
bottle
somebody.
from them.
Yeah, but some guy in the street.
That would be awesome if it was like, okay, we see the backstory. So Nick Fury's like, okay, I gotta go and convince Skrull Rhodey to drink something. What can he drink? What can I guarantee? Okay, Pappy Van Winkle. Right, how do I get a hold of that? All right, I think there's a softball team in Kentucky. And we see him like fly out, and then like have to go and meet the guys, and then try to buy the bottle.
They could have like gotten those guys in the documentary to like go to Europe and be like, here you go, and then like put some Skrull makeup on him because he was really a Skrull agent the whole time.
The whole time. Oh man, okay, yeah, that was another 3 episodes that they could have done there.
Yeah, exactly. See, look at that.
In this case, wisely, they just jumped to, hey, I have a bottle of Pappy Van Winkle, great. But I get your point that he could have just said his story. I think what he was trying to do was say like, he's like, oh, that's there's a Skrull really close to the president, as close as you are to me.
Yes.
I think the point of that is to say like, I'm not saying you're a Skrull, but I could. So and that's what makes Skrull Rhodey then go, oh, you know what? Speaking of things I know that I'm not telling, look at this. I have video footage of you shooting Maria Hill, and I'm not saying anything. So get out, whatever. So I think that's where that was going. But so
I suppose
there's a version of that story where Skrull Rhodey's been a Skrull for so long because he was actually put in place by Nick Fury, but I don't think that's the story. I feel like Skrull Rhodey came in late. I don't know when he's come into the story, but Rhodey actual Rhodey is probably hanging out in stasis in the Skrull compound.
Sure.
Probably to be freed in episode 6.
I would expect.
But we also get the, Rhodey is a female Skrull at that.
Yes.
It's kind of interesting little twist there. I think last week I hoped that this wouldn't be the case because, among other things, it was too obvious. They were like, Rhodey was being completely unreasonable and hostile towards Fury.
Yes.
The simple answer to that would just be like, hey, he's not actually Rhodey, he's a Skrull. I'm like, okay. Yeah, we joked, I think, that we hoped the episode would be titled The Asshole.
Yeah.
It's like, thank goodness, Rhodey's just being a jerk.
Yeah.
Because it's just like, okay. I mean, they telegraphed the hell out of it then.
They did.
In a show that's meant to be a misdirection show, there have been a few things, they've stumbled on some of the misdirects. With Rhodey, it was pretty damn obvious that unless the twist is he's not a Skrull, it's pretty obvious he's a Skrull. And then with, they killed Gaia, but they'd shown so much trailer footage of Gaia that you're she's not dead. And now that they've done that, and they've done the whole switcheroo, she's not dead, you're not going to do that again, surely. No. So now Talos is actually dead because they're not going to be like, oh, look, I also got in the machine. They're not doing that. So they're kind of like, I don't know, they're stepping over their own little. I think in the writers' room, when this was, I think originally these were supposed to be like, oh my God, these are going to be great little twists. Gaia wasn't dead. She actually had gotten Extremis, and see how that. I think. At the time, they probably thought that would be a pretty cool thing. As it is, anyone who'd watched any bit of info about this was like, "Oh yeah, she's fine. She's fine." So it's like, I don't know. I think they tripped over themselves a little bit in a show that's supposed to be about reveals. I think they kind of they kind of goofed the reveals a bit. So we end with I would say an ambitious battle sequence.
Sure.
But it did feel clunky, unfortunately.
It wasn't that impressive.
For one thing, it was tough to tell where the various combatants were in relation to each other.
Sure.
Maybe intentionally so. I don't know. But, and then it's just the shot, like, having Fury shoot Gravik, who transforms from, hey, I'm a good guy, to, oh, it's Gravik, shakes off the bullet, stabs Talos, gets on a motorcycle, and drives away while being completely surrounded by the president's military
Yes.
defense team.
Yeah.
Just felt weird. I'm like, why is no one trying to stop this guy? It was awkward. It was awkward. It was staged in a way you're like, was that what you meant? Like, because look, like literally 3 yards to his right is a guy with an automatic weapon who's like trying to kill all of his buddies. It just felt weird. I don't know. It was like,
it's interesting that Rhodey, he can be a Skrull and everything, and he can't get the Secret Service detail of the president to be Skrulls too.
Good point. Good point. Well, also he's just hanging out in the car the whole time, which is a little
and
weird.
it just and it makes you too wonder, like, all that time he couldn't be like, let me just take this guy in there to replace the president. But
Yep.
They seem to have all the other. Oh, I guess I don't know what all the other leaders that they had at the council, what they were.
Yeah.
They were probably low level, but yeah, it's all clunky to me.
We see Gravik use his Groot powers.
Yes.
Which gives away that they're not simply standard Russian soldiers. Although I guess you could say, as you pointed out earlier to me, you could just say the Russians are using supervillains.
Yeah.
Be like, oh, look, they're hired by the Russians.
Yeah.
But they,
Or you can, even argue like, okay, they're, fighting for Russia, so they're patriots,
Yeah. Okay. But then you get this. So we also get this reveal. Talos is talking to his daughter, and he reveals to her what his plan is. So she's like, you need a plan, something to follow. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
Plan is we're going to take out Gravik and the insurgents and show proof of our efforts to the president, then get humanity to accept us as basically helpful, useful aliens.
Yes.
And she waves off the plan. But now that he's apparently died saving the president, I think maybe the show is leaning in the direction of having, like, she's going to try to complete the plan that he envisioned and she dismissed. But also, I guess in thinking about Talos' plan, I think he's suggesting that they keep their human forms. He mentions it to her, like, she's like, we can't reveal ourselves? He's like, no, that's too much to ask. So I think he's saying that the governments of the world would secretly know they're Skrulls and allow them to hang out, which just sounds like there's
it does sound like you're on Gaia's side.
I am on Gaia's side on this. I mean, put it in real terms. Okay, so present day Earth. If 1 million aliens suddenly reveal themselves to the government and they're like, hey, we've been hiding amongst you for decades. And apart from our chameleon powers, we're also significantly stronger than you, and we live a lot longer than you. And some of us do have superpowers. And then the leader of the group says, hey, but you got nothing to fear from us because we just thwarted a subgroup of our own kind who tried to wipe out humanity. It was a close call, but we did it. Anyway, can't we just stay? You'd be like, no way that goes down well. I mean, it's just... I don't know. So anyway, I hope that the way that the show is heading, it finds a way to make a more believable outcome than I'm currently seeing it ending.
It'd be nice if they took a page from Enemy Mine. I don't know if you ever saw that movie.
I did. It's been a while, but remind me how that...
Well, it's Dennis Quaid and Louis Gossett Jr. as an alien, right? And so there was an alien ship crashed, and so there were refugees.
And their enemies... Obviously, they're at odds for a bunch of it, but then they find common ground through adversity, basically.
Yeah, but one of the weird things is like there's a special drug that turns them into uncontrollable monsters. But at least though that everybody is aware of these aliens, so they can't change form, but at least everybody's aware of them. So it's. They had to they made a choice to not have that be the case, that people would not be aware of it. And so I feel as if, the whole thing is, going to get down to the point where we're going to be not too far from where we started, it feels like to me, when this is all over.
I do feel like with Gaia's kind of impassioned, like, hey, we should be free to be ourselves. And then the fact that Vara says, hey, would you still love me if I was my actual self? I feel like the show is pressing the idea of saying, like, the solution ultimately will have Skrulls walking around as Skrulls. But
I feel like that would be a decent solution. Hopefully they'll come to that.
Just one of those things where knowing that any time they could imitate anyone they want.
They're already so far from our world, and that there are all sorts of things, sticking out of the ocean and shit. It's like.
Yep. That's a good point. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to throw this out. I thought of this just as we started talking, and I kind of think I hope I'm wrong on this, and I feel like the odds of this being the case are small, but not zero.
Okay.
So at the end of this episode, we have, just like with Maria Hill, it's like, oh my God, Fury sees her die and then has to leave.
Yeah.
Because violence is happening, I got to get out of here.
Sure.
And so same idea. It was like, oh my God, Taylor's is dying or dead. Oh, I got to deal with the president. And so he leaves, and they're like, oh, we'll get you a ride. He's like, I got my own ride. And he does a boop, boop, and he opens his doors, and he puts the president in, and then he and the president alone are driving off in a Jeep.
Yes.
So what if?
Yeah,
exactly. You know where this.
I do.
Okay.
I was like, wow, is he gonna not? He's gonna save himself some embarrassment?
I'm not, well, I can always edit this out. Okay. What if? Because we've already seen Gravik can imitate Nick Fury. That's how he shot Maria Hill.
Sure.
Look, I'm Nick Fury. I can shoot, and then look, it's Nick Fury.
There you go.
We've also seen a lot of his followers imitate Gravik.
Sure.
Oh, look, I'm Gravik.
Yeah.
So what if when Gravik came into the camp and did all his stuff and then rode off, the guy who rode off was not Gravik. Gravik was now disguised as Nick Fury, and so right now Gravik is driving the president off to parts unknown as Gravik. There you go. So that's the opening of the next episode. Oh, look, it was me all along or something. And meanwhile, somewhere nearby, is a punched out Nick Fury or something. It's like, oh, let me wake up. Because we do see, there is in one of the trailers, Nick Fury by himself is walking up to the gates of the Skrull compound.
Yes.
And and so he's coming there for a reason. I would think either to rescue Rhodey, maybe, or probably because Gravik maybe has the president there, or there's a thing to go to do that. Anyway, so just saying that maybe the guy who's driving off the president right now is not, in fact, Nick Fury.
That'd be interesting if they didn't, they did that and they didn't reveal it as he was driving off. Okay, now that we're down the road, let me show something that makes you distrust him. That'd be interesting if they didn't decide to do that. But, they like to have weird cliffhangers, so.
They do. They're very excited about the cliffhanger.
It's like, okay, let's create a cliffhanger. How can we neuter it when it starts again?
Let's show trailers that totally give it away ahead of time.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not the best idea. So anyway, there's 2 episodes left.
Yes.
So this thing's barreling toward a conclusion.
Yeah.
We'll see how this wraps up.
I don't think we can stop it.
We can't stop the Skrull threat.
No.
So we'll be back talking about those, and we're also talking about Star Trek, Strange New Worlds, and we're coming up on the finale of the Lazarus Project. Stay tuned for all that. Thank you as always, Paul.
Appreciate it, no problem.
And we'll talk to everybody next time.
Bye.